Everyone's excited about Hammerella. Check out this killer fan art by Michael Odom and James Lee Stone. If you don't want to miss out, get on the email list, link below. We've got a crowdfunder coming up soon for the 48-page special.
If I any chance, we'll take it. Read us any rules, we'll break it. We're gonna make our dreams come true. Doing it our way.
Hey homies, what's up? Ryan Winn here with another episode of Late Night Inks, and tonight we have a special guest with us. Someone I'm actually very unfamiliar with. The one, the only Solomon Kane, as created by Robert E. Howard. What this is an ink-along. Now, you can download the blue line of this down below and ink it digitally, print it up, ink it traditionally, if I could say that, the way I'm going to. You can ink it with any tool, and you can change any of the lines or do whatever you want with it. But if you do, I would like you to let me know. At Ryan Winn over on Twitter, or you can let me know down below. Anyways, we are going to be using our Raphael 8404 size 2. Going to be using this for Pitograph Ultra Draw Black India ink. And we're also going to be using our Wits. So, another thing this is, besides an ink-along video, this is going to a lucky winner. What I have going on right now is Hammerella project, as you saw in the intro. And if you sign up there, you will get an email from my team that will ask you to recommend a character. They will put the characters on a list. I don't know whose characters are from who. They don't give me the names of the people or the emails, but we did have 2 people that recommended Solomon Kane, and this is going to somebody whose initials are J and Z. And again, I don't know who anyone is because I don't want to pick favorites or anything like that, even while I'm working on the project. I want this to be really pure in that way. Okay, so I already did a bunch of warm-ups. As you can see here, I have been warming up, so I'm good to go. So I'm going to start with a long line. Sometimes I like to start with short lines when I'm warming up, but what I want to do is I want to nail this hat first. And we're not going to fill in the solid black areas yet. We're just going to do the contour or the holding lines. Alright, so I am positioned. We are in frame, and here we go. Line up our shot. Nice bold line there. Line up our shot. And mirror that there. While we're over here. It's funny how easy it is to talk normally, but with your head turned down just a little bit and your chin sort of in your neck, it makes certain words hard to say sometimes. Especially words with L's. I tend to say those funny, like my tongue wants to fall out of my mouth. Literally. Alright, so one of the things that kept me from reading about this character when I was a kid was I hated this hat. These tall Puritan kind of hats. Man, I was not into that at all. But in the last few years, working with my friend Dean Kotz on Gods and Gears, I've learned that this character is extremely interesting. This is Dean's favorite character. And I appreciate a good Robert E. Howard story. I was a fan of his Conan stories. I really liked those. And I loved the movie as a kid, and that's what got me into it. And I also liked comics and had some great Conan comics. Some great John Buscema, some Tony DeZuniga inks. Oh, I hope I said his name right. Anyways. But Solomon Kane's hat kept me away from him. I thought it was super dorky. I had no idea how badass he was. He is essentially Hellboy, but he's a human. So I guess like Van Helsing is inspired, or he's inspired. I'm not sure. I didn't look up. I just assumed Van Helsing was inspired by this character. I was assuming he came first. I think it was like 1926 or something. Yeah, I know. I actually did some research. I never do research. But since I don't know anything about this character, except that I was intrigued by him, I thought I would do a little bit of research. All right, here, this is the buckle hat that the whatever Pilgrim Puritan type peoples wear. You can see I was kind of sketching where to put the little clip thing. Excuse me. I've opted against putting that there. It was just bugging me. It was like a little eyesore. It was just like, hey, look at me. Doot, doot, this little thing. So when realism bothers me in my art, I get rid of it. And now the buckle is more of the design element of a buckle. It's the symbol of a buckle. Which is it, excuse me, which it is anyways, since it's a two-dimensional drawing. All right, we've got our hat. I'd like to do the hat first in the sense that it's the foremost element here, that it's layered in front of his face. Now the next thing I'd like to do is go in and let's get these eyes. Hold the brush up nice and straight, and we're gonna do sort of a reverse J shape, and that's the highlight in the eye. And then we're gonna do a similar shape here, and that is the pupil. So you can go ahead and fill that in black. I know we didn't fill in the large black areas, but I like to save those for last. It takes a long time to dry, and when you do these little areas, that'll be dry really quick, and especially with the eyes, it just helps me make sure I'm lining them up right. Whoa, I almost touched down right in the highlight there by accident. All right, there we go. There's our highlight. Now our pupil, and I don't often draw the pupils this big, but he's, I imagine he's in a darker room, and his eyes are under this heavy brow of his hat, or heavy rim of his hat, and under his own heavy brow. So, okay, we did that. Where are we at now? We are doing the irises now. Make sure we're lined up. Now, I like to break these lines partially because it looks kind of cool, like the light is helping to break that. And also, it can be a bit of a cheat. You don't have to do a full perfect circle. There we go. Now, we're going to come back to the eyes, the irises in just 1 second. First, I want to lay down the brow now. Now, some people may think this is backwards, that you should do the eyelids and outline the eyes first. You can if that's your style, if that's what you want to do. There, I don't feel like there's any rules, but one thing I was taught by Danny Mickey when I started with him was line up those and work your way out, and everything else will line up properly. But if you do the outlines first and then drop in the eyes, a lot of times they'll end up being crooked. And this was a good way to make sure those are as balanced as possible. And then you can also work your way around. That's a little thin. We're gonna bolden that up and bring it in. There we go. So he is a character in the 1600s, and basically, like I said, he's sort of a Hellboy character. He goes around and puts out evil like they're candles, and he's the guy that puts out candles. So I'm pretty excited to read some of the stories. I went on the old YouTube and was looking at people's recommendations, and then I talked to Dean and a few other people, and I've got a list of books, or not books, I guess they're short stories, and some comic books I wanna check out. It looks like Al Williamson, who is a favorite inker and illustrator of mine, did some stories and did some inking on some stories. The video I saw, it actually didn't mention the penciler, just mentioned Al's inks. So, okay, back to the inks here. we're adding a little shadow here, and this is the shadow of his upper eyelid on his iris. So we actually do have to close out the highlight there. I didn't think about that. See? Never afraid to show you my mistakes. Not that I make them that often, right? So why would we add that shadow? And it's going to be the same answer as always. It's to add dimension. I always ask, why do we add this or why do we do that? It's to add dimension because we're working on a two-dimensional image and we want to make it feel three-dimensional. And by adding that shadow of his upper eyelid, it sort of creates the element of form and space. All right, we're going to rinse off the old brush. We're going to take a swig of water ourselves. And while I'm thinking about it, I'm going to be having a second video this week where I show you how I inked this here Madman piece. But anyways, enough about that. We are getting back to this, loading up the brush. I dip the brush about 2/3 to halfway. I wipe it off on the inside of the jar to sort of sharpen the brush, as I call it. And then I have a little bit of scratch paper on the side that I do a few swipes to sort of see how much ink is on there and how sharp the brush is. Now, obviously, you don't really sharpen a brush. I'm talking about flattening the hairs to a point. And I do that, it's sort of like this shape. Or this movement. I do like just a slight twist and a flick off the inside of the jar. And it sort of it springs the hairs of the brush into their sort of natural teardrop shape. And that helps you create these awesome lines. All right, heavy, deep sunken eyes. And now a healthy schnoz. I love noses. Noses are one of my favorite features. I have fun drawing noses. I have fun looking at people's noses, weird them out. I have fun weirding people out like that. But noses are fun. They're sort of difficult to get. I recommend whether you're drawing or inking, take time to work on noses, hands, feet, break down the objects of whatever it is you regularly ink. If you like inking superheroes and people and stuff like that, then you should break down and either print up a bunch of noses or draw a bunch of noses. I recommend drawing, even if you're just an inker. I recommend drawing a bunch of noses and then drawing a bunch of eyes and then ink a bunch of eyes, 10 or 20 per page, and just draw a bunch of different shapes. They don't have to be perfect, but just get comfortable with how the nose is and how hands are and how ears are. It's well worth the practice. It's actually a little bit fun because it's not stressful about oh, you have to ink this piece really well. I see a lot of young artists and inkers that sort of think they're gonna learn by only doing final pieces and never practicing. And I don't see any logic in that, and I don't ever see any good results from that. Your favorite sports teams would laugh at you. What do you mean you wouldn't practice? You have to run drills, you have to organize your thoughts, you have to practice things before you go play the game. Otherwise, you're going to go out there with lacking fundamentals. And sometimes fundamentals are boring, sometimes they're difficult, sometimes they are intimidating. But you have to do them. No, you don't have to, but if you want to be good, that's the way. And I don't really care if you do or don't. So, speaking of fundamentals, some of my fundamentals are, once I get the eyes in place, I usually don't do the nose and mouth right away, but the brush had a nice line for that, and we were talking noses. So, the next thing I'm going to do is do the contours of his face, this big collar he has. Then we're going to do some of the rendering on his face here, which is the sort of the lines that we've got going here. They're not quite crosshatches. I would call them renderings or bleeds, some of that. And then lastly, we're going to do the hair and then fill in the black. So you guys are always good at responding and letting me know your thoughts on stuff like Solomon Kane. Have you read the character? Have you read the comics? Have you read the short stories? Is he somebody you've been curious about? Is he somebody that, like me, you were turned off by his funky hat and you now regret your old ways and you wish you had been more open-minded? All right, you can just whip these around like that, and that's where the sort of muzzle of the human face sits inside the skull. See, I'm already breaking my own rules. Come on across there. I'm supposed to do the contour first, and the reason I like to do that is it's very similar. Excuse me, very similar to my theory on the eyes. I like to make sure that the face is balanced. But I am cheating here to do this rendering because I want it layered with this cheekbone, and those lines go in front of those lines. So there we go. Okay, then we're going to come down here and do his Puritan man collar. I'm going to do this in one big foul swoop. You do not have to do it like that. You can break it up if you'd like. But always make sure that you are not hitting any wet spots. Let me get centered in the frame again. All right, we look like we are dry, dry, dry. And you can break up your lines like this. And then extend them as such. All right, we're going to do his ears now. I brought the line on the hat down. Here, let me drink some water. I brought the line on the hat down a little further than I wanted to, so we almost create this tangent with his ear. Little fuzzies. So we're going to come in on the ear a little bit. We're going to go up to about there, and that's where we're going to cut across. Like that. There we go. Don't really have to adjust any of the other lines. We just brought those down. And while we're here, we'll fill in the little shadows. Spot these mini blacks. That way we don't have to come back to them. That way we don't have to mark an X there to remember to fill that in black. And then this is that little nub on your ear. Which I used to know the names of all the anatomical parts that you had to draw, and all of that stuff has fallen out of my brain. It wasn't really that important. It may have been important to know at the time, as in it helped me remember the parts and it was part of a focused study, but it wasn't necessarily important to retain it for me. I'm not a surgeon or an anatomy teacher, and I'm too dumb to say most of those words correctly. Okay, so before we get to the hair, we're going to finish some of this rendering. It's okay to do a bunch of wrinkles and folds and cross hatches or bleeds on him if you want. I don't really do a lot of cross hatching, but if you want to hatch up some of these lines, feel free to. I like doing brushy bleeds like this. Now, these lines sort of create the shadow where the nose bends back under, and then I don't do the shadow underneath because I sort of treat that like there's a little bit of a bounce light, maybe coming from his upper lip. Okay, now we got some little wrinkles here. These don't, you actually don't want these to be super uniform. You can have different spacing between them. Actually, maybe you want the line weights to be sort of similar. You can get a little beefier at the ends if you want to, because these sort of represent the wrinkles and folds in the lip. And he's a leathery dude, so you can kind of go nuts there if you want, and that's okay. I've really liked seeing everyone's different interpretations. Not only am I honored that everyone is watching and participating, but I really love that people are doing their own thing. They're not afraid to do hair in their own style. They're not afraid to fill in black here or do some backgrounds or things that I didn't do, because it's not about, making me happy with the piece by doing it exactly like I want it. It's about you having the courage to practice inking and exploring the craft and and getting better. So there's no rules except give it a try, and whatever you do, I'm pretty stoked to see and share. If I have time on the editing process, we're gonna do some, I'll show some at the end. We got a bunch this week. We got so many, I think I'm gonna have to start asking you guys to put your names across the bottom, like put your whatever, your Twitter or your Instagram or both, wherever you want people to see you besides your signature by my name, put that at the bottom, because homie don't have time to do all the editing to add those himself right now. I have assistant to help me with the HAMMERELLA project, but whew, editing my videos and stuff, I need all the help I can get. So if you're willing to participate, maybe please be willing to put your at the bottom too. That'd be super cool. Also, let me know if that's a jerky move. I'm asking too much, you guys. I'm curious. I don't know. Maybe that sounds. It's like, hey, dude, we're participating. You can add the at. Come on. But either way, it's been such an honor, and I'm stoked people are watching. I'm stoked people are learning. People like Corey King has done quite a few. Sherman Tabayan has done quite a few. And they're both dudes that are really trying to hone their craft. So I feel honored that they're taking on the challenge and that they're watching and that kind of stuff. It kind of pumps me up to make sure that each video, even though they are unscripted and sort of unplanned, I still want to make sure that you're getting something out of it. And sometimes it's stories and stuff like that too, but I try to make sure that you're getting a little something for your creative endeavors. All right, we're going to come back to these pieces here because that line is nice and heavy, and I don't want to smudge it. So I was going to fill this hair in black, but I'm starting to like the way it looks with big bold lines like that, but we still might do something else to it. And there, that way it kind of tucks under in between his jaw and his neck. Let's see. Okay, we're gonna hit that guy, and let's see. We're gonna come back for those. Right now, we're gonna. So this is a. That's a tight curve. Do I want to do that? This one comes over. I'm gonna do this one first. So this is one of the funny things about inking is I'm not doing this on any deadline other than trying to keep it under, say, like 45 minutes, 30, 40 minutes. That's ideal. But my brain was so trained by doing deadline superhero comics all the time that you're always thinking, what's the quickest pattern? So I want to do these ones first so that these guys can pull off of that line. Where if that line didn't exist, I wouldn't be able to pull so cleanly from it like this. And that's how you get this fold being under that one, sort of creating dimension again. So I like to also follow the energy of the pencil lines, whether it's my pencil lines or a different penciler. My own pencils are fairly loose here, but I'll trace over multiple times sometimes like this to get a feel, and then once I'm comfortable, go in and lay down that line. And then we've got a protrusion here. It comes out, because hair and muscles sort of, I've said this before, you might get tired of me saying it, but I'm going to keep saying it. They sort of do the same thing with this like teardrop shape. They taper on two ends, thin to thick to thin, much like many of the lines we make as inkers. Let's see, that's looking fairly balanced now. Hey, we're at 24 minutes, not bad. Closing in on finishing this bad boy up. And I'm thinking I might want to draw him again if I end up liking his stories as much as people are telling me I'm going to like his stories. So, and I don't think I finished because I interrupt myself sometimes when I'm doing these things. But if you guys have read Solomon Kane stories, I'd be curious to know what stories you've read and what you liked about them. You know, we are going to add some lines here. I want to do some layers. All right, but I want to keep it kind of open because I want to color this piece, and I want to give him that old grayish blue comic book hair. So where his hair tucks in behind him, we'll go more lines like that. There we go. Yeah, I'm digging that. And we'll do like 3 lines out of each little pointy hair tip down here. Nice and simple like that. So you don't have to do much to imply hair. Hair was something I did take a long time practicing. In my time after leaving Danny Mickey's studio, after leaving Crime Lab Studios and starting on the darkness, I devoted myself to getting really good at hair. I had worked as Joe Weems' assistant over Mark Silvestri, and that gave me an opportunity, especially on background characters and stuff. Working with Joe, he helped show me the way, and now I have a lot of fun with hair. I used to love when pencilers would give me like really layered hairdos with lots of shadows and locks of hair. All right, so I'm gonna make sure it kind of has a balance with both sides. All right, now we're gonna do some thin to thicks. On the other side, we were going thick to thin to these tips. Now we're going to go thin to thick. And as you can see, the wrist is locked down. Elbows locked down. Wrist moving, sorry. Elbows locked down, wrist is moving. And we'll just do 3 on this one. All right, there we go. I'm super happy with that grumpy face. And I think I'm gonna go a little rough with, let's see, let's get a brush. I'm gonna go different coarse here than normal, I think. I'm gonna get a big old synthetic brush. Never even used this guy before. Or girl, who knows? I'll load it up. Oh, I went much heavier than I usually do. Now, I want to go solid black under here. So I want to frame his hat. This brush, I don't like this brush. I'm putting it down. It doesn't hold any ink. I'm going to use my trusty Raphael 8404 size 4. I almost said size 6. Size 4 is the big ol' one. All right, there we go. Much better. So solid black there, solid black here. A little more ink. All right, you don't have to fill in blacks this quickly. I was an assistant and did this for years, so I filled them in very confidently and very quickly. But I learned that by moving very slowly and very surely. All right, now we're gonna create a halo or an outline within the hat here. I said that backwards. Forget what I just said. We are creating a coarse shadow on the brim of the hat. And that's an old school comic book move. You'd see they do this on anything that's a dark material. Say you're looking at Black Suit Spider-Man. They would outline the arms and then do a core black shadow inside like this. And you can do bleeds or renderings off there if you want to soften up those transitions. I'm not sure what I'm going to do yet. We'll see. Now also, when you're filling in big black areas like this, do not scrub with the brush unless it's a brush you want to scrub with. It may look like I'm scrubbing back and forth, but I am only pulling towards myself. When I swing back, I'm pulling up away from the board. So the ink is all applied in one direction. You don't want to twist up your brushes, your bristles. Now, sometimes you do that with a rougher brush to create, zigzaggy patterns or more organic effects with the brush. But we're not going for that. He's got this leathery hat. And you know what? I think I want to... No. Not going to do that. I was going to do an outline on the underside of the hat too, but then I feel like that would pop it forward, and I want it to stay popped back, because right now it feels like it's popped back. Okay, let's see. I'm starting to talk and stopping to talk because I'm starting to think and stopping to think. All right, we're going to do some bleeds here to sort of soften that transition. And then we'll go back to a hard black there. Okay, so load this brush up. And this might be it. Just over 30 minutes, not so bad. I think last week's Madman was about 40, which is not so bad. But I do, again, thank all of you for watching. This has been really fun. Coming up with this series. I've had the channel for a few years and we've had some fun doing some different things. I think I still want to do some page and print episodes where we look at original art and the printed counterpart. And we can look at pages by me and pages. I have some original art that I did not work on that we can look at. Okay, so here it looked like I was going counter to what I said earlier where I pull forward. That was because we don't want to be pulling towards this this black line because we don't want to risk going towards it. Sorry, I had a moth trying to fly at me there for a second. So I was butting up against it. So I still wasn't scrubbing. I just changed the direction of the brush flow. Just like here, we go up to the black edge and then pull inward. All right, so there's our Solomon Kane. Now, if you want, you can also, let's see, I've got a little ink on the brush, so if you want to do this too, you can add some rendering here around the hat to sort of help give form. And this also would, if I was coloring this, I would also use that as sort of a highlight on each side of that to line up with, a highlight on each side of that, since the hat sort of implies that he's slightly lit from above and behind. All right, let's put our brush behind our ear. Let's find our trusty Zensations brush marker. Link below for this and our brush. We got all the tools. We also have links below for my website where you can get Gods and Gears merch, as well as links to the Hammerella sign up. Hammerella is the story that we're doing crowdfunder for. It's extended universe. It's an extended universe story from the Gods and Gears universe. Sorry, I'm bumbling here as I'm trying to think of all the things I'm supposed to say. So if you end up inking Solomon Kane, let me know below or at Twitter over at Twitter at Ryan Winn. If you have read Solomon Kane and you have suggestions, let me know below. And until next time, take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and take it easy. Solomon Kane, yeah, yeah, yeah. Solomon Kane, yeah, yeah, yeah. It's a theme song. And if you haven't already, head over to alternaaccess.com and check out the book I wrote, Gods and Gears, with art by Dean Cox and letters by Wes Logan. Issue 4 is out soon. Stupid cat.